Hello, everyone. That music is a signal for your attention as we have a few brief announcements before the service gets started. We will be using the microphone today for joys and sorrows, but if you would like to remain anonymous and we can still fill out a form. There's still time for that to bring that forward. I hope you all have picked up or received a Sunday morning handout, double-sided, lots of information. Of course, next Sunday we are having a congregational meeting, an important meeting after the service to vote on some bylaw changes that our board is recommending. And there are hard copies of the bylaws at the back table as well. There's also a Zoom meeting this coming week that you can find the link to in the messenger to discuss those bylaw changes. I hope to see you all tomorrow. I'll be here again at 10:30 tomorrow, making signs for our MLK Day March. And then you can also meet us at the town square at noon. And families are welcome, anyone is welcome, to join us for a picnic after the march at Chautauqua Park, which is within walking distance of our destination with the march. But of course, there's also a service to attend if you would like to do that as well. A few other things mentioned in the handout include a 10th anniversary for our Texas UU Justice Ministry. I'm registered to go. It's on a Saturday. I hope you all will join me. They'll be talking about how we are going to let our legislature know what we would like them to do this year. And our social justice team here at San Gabriel has many opportunities for you to join them in that work of building our beloved community. And last Sunday, we had a burning bowl ceremony, and you received a new word for the year as inspiration and guidance. And I have a few of those words left over, so if you weren't here last Sunday, I would love to give you one. All right, let us begin.
Good morning. Welcome to San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Whether you're here in the sanctuary or you're joining us at home, we're so glad that you are here today. I'm Pat Berthold, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a longtime Unitarian Universalist, and I've been a member of San Gabriel since I moved here in June of 2019. I currently assist the membership team as a greeter, work with the board when they ask me on special projects such as our current bylaws revision, and occasionally take a turn up here as lay leader. San Gabriel is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association. There are over 1,000 UU congregations around the United States and around the world. All of us together are working for a just, peaceful, and sustainable world. Sustaining each other here in community is the first step down the long road of that important work. If you would like to know more about us and learn about upcoming events, please go to our website and sign up for our newsletter. Alternatively, you can talk to the folks in the back at the welcome table and they'll help you sign up for the newsletter. Our congregation is served by our minister, Reverend Jamie Yandel. When they are not in the pulpit, we hear from a variety of voices. Today, our Director of Religious Education, Corinna Whiteaker-Lewis, shares with us her thoughts on Article 2, What Does It Do? Please know that whoever you are, wherever you are from, whomever you love, wherever you are on life's journey, whatever your gender identity or immigration status, you are welcome here. Let us greet the day in song. Our opening hymn is number 131, Love Will Guide Us, in the gray hymnal, Sharing the Living Tradition. The words are also projected on the wall behind me, and if you'll please rise in body or spirit as you are able. We light our chalice with these words from Reverend Jamie. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith, for the promise of a new day, for the renewal of belonging, for the connection between and beyond all that is, all that was, and all that is yet to come. May our many sparks meet and merge in communion of heart and soul to greet this day.
Good morning, and I share with you the words of UU minister Christian Schmidt as our call to worship today, a day where we, among other things, lift up the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Let us wake up, not just from the Sunday morning exhaustion, from the wish for a few more drowsy minutes in bed. Let us wake up to this world we live in, to its beauty and wonder, and also to its tragedy and pain. We must wake up to this reality that not all in our world have what we do, however much or little that is. We must wake up to the idea that our wholeness, our lives, are only as complete as the lives of those around us, of those we are inextricably tied to in a great web of mutuality, of which all of us are a part. We must stay woke, in the words of our friends and colleagues involved in Black Lives Matter, working every day for racial justice in our country. Let us wake up. Let us stay awake. Let us stay woke. And now, in this time and place, let us worship together.
Our affirmation is an expression of our covenant with one another. Please read it responsively after me. The words will be projected back here. The doctrine of this church is love.
We are here to love.
The quest of truth is its sacrament.
We are here to learn.
Service is its prayer.
We are here to care for others.
To dwell together in peace.
We are here to live in peace.
To seek knowledge and freedom.
We are here to honor our differences.
To serve humanity in fellowship.
We are all connected in spirit.
To the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine.
We are here to grow.
Thus do we covenant with each other.
This we promise to do together.
It's time for our Wonderbox. Corinna, are you ready to share it with us?
I think so. I love hearing your guesses about what might be in here. And I know that the answer will be revealed, but sometimes the answer is never revealed, is it, in some of our big life questions. So let's take a moment in the joy of knowing what could be in here. Any guesses? You can shout out. A flashlight? It is clunky, it sounds like. In the back, you want to make a guess as to what might be in here? Rocks? That was a guess last week, too. Any other thoughts? Books? See what I mean? Look at what we've got there. What do you think of when you see rocks? What was that? Rock of Ages. A great song. Throwing, I heard. All right, let's see what our story tells us about rocks today.
Petra by Mariana Coppo, published by Penguin Random House. Nothing can move me. Not the wind, not time. I don't go anywhere. Everyone comes to me. I am strong. I'm a fearsome, fearless, mighty, magnificent mountain. Is that a pebble? Oof. Me? A pebble? No way. I'm an egg. A smooth, shiny egg. I'm not an ordinary egg. I'm an egg of the world in a world of possibility. Will I breathe fire? Will I wear a tuxedo? Whatever I become, I'm bound to be amazing. There's no room for rocks in my nest. Oh no, not again. This is becoming a pattern. Well, they say no egg is an island. But what an amazing island I am. What paradise, what palm trees, what peace, what sunshine, what a cool rock. Not bad at all. What will I be tomorrow? Who knows? Well, no need to worry. I'm a rock, and this is how I roll. The end.
Petra put up with a lot. What I like about this story is how her attitude kind of changed as her circumstances changed. She went from seeing herself as an immovable mountain to an egg full of possibility to a paradise island to an elephant. She looks a little grumpy with each change. But ultimately, she says she's not worried. It's how she rolls. She's willing to take on how others see her, but also claims her own identity within the context of each of those changes. So there is a fundamental understanding beneath the change as well. Well, that's what makes a good Wonderbox story, a simple story with a lot of depth to it. And I just want to say, if you enjoy working with your hands, we have some rocks at the back of the sanctuary that you can decorate along with all our other crafting items. So you can go back there or take it to your seat. All right. And I have the book if you'd like to look at her a little more closely. Many of you know that in May of 1966, Dr. King gave a speech at General Assembly, the annual meeting and conference of the Unitarian Universalist Association. In fact, at this time, 2 years ago, in the middle of the pandemic, one of our members, Kenneth Witherspoon, organized an online service where members of San Gabriel took turns reading the lecture. King's speech is entitled "Don't Sleep Through the Revolution," and opens with a tribute to UU minister Reverend James Reeb, who was murdered in Selma the year prior. And he mentions his gratitude for the support Unitarian Universalists have given to the civil rights movement. He then recalls the story of Rip Van Winkle, which I think was one of his favorite stories that he would tell, by Washington Irving. And if you don't know that story, it's the story of a man who slept for 20 years. And Dr. King specifically highlights how Van Winkle went to sleep under the British rule of King George and woke up to the American government of George Washington, that he had slept through a revolution. And I quote him, "While he was peacefully snoring up in the mountains, a revolution was taking place in the world that would alter the face of human history. Yet Rip knew nothing about it. He was asleep. One of the great misfortunes of history is that all too many individuals and institutions find themselves in a great period of change and yet fail to achieve the new attitudes and outlooks that the new situation demands. There is nothing more tragic than to sleep through a revolution. And there can be no gainsaying of the fact that a social revolution is taking place in our world today." Dr. King then goes on to list what responsibilities must be fulfilled to remain awake through this revolution, stating, "It has always been the role of the church to broaden horizons, to challenge the status quo, and to question and break mores if necessary." At the end of the speech, Dr. King shares the phrase we know so well, that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Dr. King popularized this saying, which is a paraphrase of a portion of a sermon delivered in 1853 by abolitionist Unitarian minister Reverend Theodore Parker. In that sermon, Parker said, "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience, and from what I see, I am sure it bends towards justice." Our UU connection with Dr. King goes even deeper. 20 years ago, the Reverend Rosemary Bray McNatt, who is now president of one of our UU seminaries, the Starr King School for the Ministry, recalled an hour-long conversation she had with Coretta Scott King some years prior. So again, this was written she wrote 20 years ago about something that had happened a few years prior to that. During the conversation, Reverend McNatt mentions that at the time she was in seminary to become a Unitarian Universalist minister. Reverend McNatt says, "What frankly surprised me was the look she gave me, that Coretta Scott King gave her, one of respect and delight. Oh, I went to Unitarian churches for years, even before I met Martin, and Martin and I went to Unitarian churches when we were in Boston. What surprised and saddened me," and this is still Reverend McNatt speaking, "what surprised and saddened me most was what she said next. Though I am paraphrasing, the gist of it was, we gave a lot of thought to becoming Unitarian at one time. But Martin and I realized we could never build a mass movement of Black people if we were Unitarian." It just kind of hits you. You can find the entire article Reverend McNatt wrote in response to this revelation from Coretta Scott King on the UU World magazine website. It is called To Pray Without Apology. She reflects on how Dr. King's race would have been a barrier as UUs were engaged in the active discouragement of people of color who aspired to ministry. And even if that wasn't so, that our centering of humanism to the exclusion of the wide diversity of religious experience would have limited the full expression of Dr. King's beliefs, including his understanding, as he puts it, that religious experience is not an intellectual formulation about God, it is a lasting acquaintance with God. Simply said, even though we say we need not think alike to love alike, we were in fact too narrow in our expressions of faith to be a home to Dr. King and his ministry. Remember that this article is from 20 years ago, and I believe as a faith, we have made much progress in understanding that in order to not sleep through the revolution before us, we must truly be inclusive of the religious practices, both cultural and theological, that a wide diversity of people hold. But we have a long way to go. As UU minister Paul Sawyer implores, may we have ears to hear the prophets of our own time. So with that in mind, as your religious educator, I'm going to always make you do something. Let's take a moment to ponder a question. You'll have about 5 minutes or so to chat with your neighbors about it. So yes, I'm going to ask you to turn and talk to some people around you. And the question is, what is essential to you about being Unitarian Universalist? And I will further challenge you to try and get that down to 1 or 2 words, few words. I know that's super hard. And if you are new to Unitarian Universalism, what is the essential thing that you were looking for here, that you are looking for here? And folks at home, if you are on your own, you may want to write down your thoughts, or you can share in the chat. Again, I'll give you a few minutes. What is essential to you about being a Unitarian Universalist? All right, I'm looking at my watch. All right. If you can finish up what if you would like to just briefly share maybe what you thought. Is there anybody who's willing to shout out what their group said? What did you say, Joe? Family? What did you, John?
I'll just speak for the group real quickly here. We talked about freedom, tolerance, and then
Discussion? Well, we delivered today, didn't we? Yes, Ruth? Unity. Fabulous. Acceptance. Fellowship. Yes, Dave?
And we also mentioned how it's impossible to get Unitarians to say just 2 words about it.
We're so verbose. So verbose. But people are doing well. Look at this, Dave. Folks are following instructions. We've got 1 or 2 words. Pat and I were saying care and community and love. Those were those that came up for us. Service. Commitment. Diversity. These are all great. These are great. Rob? Inclusion, love. I love it all. You're doing wonderfully. Those are fabulous. So let's continue this time of togetherness.
It's time to sing our second hymn. It's also in the gray hymnal. It is number 345. It's called "With Joy We Claim the Growing Light," and the words will also be projected on the wall. And please stand if you're willing and able. Oh, yep, got it.
I loved hearing what you find essential to your identity as a Unitarian Universalist. Let's think back for a moment about Petra and the rock who symbolized the adage, the more things change, or no, actually not that adage. The only constant is change. If change is all about us, or change is being asked of us, perhaps it can help to identify what is essential alongside all that change. And I think Petra ultimately figured out that being open to change, to transformation, was at the heart of their identity as a rock who is willing to roll. And there's much in that attitude that aligns with our UU faith, in that we say we are a living tradition and recognize that new occasions teach new duties. I believe here at San Gabriel we must be willing to change as the times require us. That transformation was certainly what Dr. King was asking of us when he asked us not to sleep through the revolution. And I will say, look at how we adapted during this pandemic and what changed as a result. The fact that folks are watching us from home right now is just one positive result from an unforeseen change. Our board has recognized that we also need changes in our governing bylaws so that we can continue to be guided by principles of clarity, equity, and democracy. And as I mentioned in the announcements, next Sunday we will be meeting to vote on those proposed changes. Change is always happening. Our Unitarian Universalist Association, which was formed in 1961 with the merger of the American Unitarian Association and the Universalist Church of America, is also governed by bylaws, which run to 33 pages, as you can imagine such a large association would need. And there are 15 sections or articles in these bylaws with Roman numerals in front of them. Article 1 simply defines the name of the association as the Unitarian Universalist Association, and Article 2 defines the purpose of the Unitarian Universalist Association and the principles that guide the association and its member congregations, and includes a statement of inclusion and a statement regarding freedom of belief. Article 2 is special. For some religious institutions, the equivalent of Article 2 would be regarded as a permanent statement of belief. It is where the 7 principles and 6 sources reside. Can we have a little rundown of the 7 principles right now? Do we? Is it? You can be singing the song in your head right now. That's okay. That is totally okay. Can anyone name what the first principle is? And you don't have to do these in order either. I'm sorry? Inherent worth and dignity. The second, anybody know? Be kind in all you do, which is justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Third principle. We help each other learn, which is acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Someone's getting out a book. That's right, they're at the front of the hymnal. The fourth is a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. The fifth is the right of conscience and the use of democratic process within our congregations and society at large. The sixth is the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And seventh principle is respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And some people think of the first and the seventh as these real bookend principles that kind of encompass everything that comes between them. Even though we refer quite a bit to the 7 principles and we do our best to know them, to memorize them, it is a bit of a struggle to recall them easily, especially in order, or which principle states what. It is a lot. But I think many of us internalize quickly that these principles are values that speak to what we hold dear in a general way. What is also important to remember that we as UUs individually and as congregations collectively, we are asked to covenant to affirm and promote those principles. And for us to be in covenant well, then it is ultimately a responsibility we must bear to know these principles well. It is a tall order. And our 6 sources are often less well known than the principles, but they affirm our heritages as a faith tradition that guide us with direct experience. I'm not going to read them all out. Direct experience of transcending mystery and wonder, the words and deeds of prophetic people, which our own Reverend Jamie helped change from women and men to prophetic people. Wisdom from the world's religions, which inspire us, Jewish and Christian teachings, humanist teachings, spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions. So all of that we claim as the teachings that help inform and inspire us in our faith process, in our faith journey. Again, all of this is expressed in Article 2 of the UUA bylaws. Also stipulated in those bylaws is that the Article 2 must be reviewed every 15 years. And that time is upon us now. So in last Wednesday's Messenger, which announced today's service, there was a link to a video and a slideshow that Reverend Jamie and I put together. And if you have not watched that yet, please do so soon, because it gives a lot of detail and background on the process of how Article 2 will be changed, because yes, it will be changed. The UUA board convened an Article 2 study commission in 2020, and they have been surveying and gathering input from everyone, everywhere, as best they can. And that commission was charged by the board to undertake the process in very specific ways, including for Article 2 to be relevant and powerful force for spiritual and moral growth, healing, and justice. It should articulate our core UU theological values. And they refer to a 2005 study of Unitarian Universalists stating UUs ranked loving as an instrumental value and mature love as a terminal value more highly than did respondents from other groups, religious and non-religious. So they say, we therefore charge this commission to root its work in love as a principal guide in its work, attending particularly to the ways that we and our root traditions have understood and articulated love and how we have acted out of love. And following the observation by Dr. Cornell West that justice is what love looks like in public, any revision of Article 2 should be rooted in anti-oppression, anti-racism, and multiculturalism. The new principles and purposes should guide us in the transformation of ourselves, our communities, and our faith into active networks of collective care, restoration, and justice. The principles and purposes you will prepare should be a living document that challenges Unitarian Universalists to place the liberation of all in all its dimensions at the center of our lives. The board further says there's nothing sacred about the number of principles or sources, nor their specific wordings, nor in the way that Article 2 is laid out. We encourage creativity. The board would like to see an Article 2 that is inspirational, memorable, and poetic. So, in late October of this past year, the Commission released a new draft Article 2. It now contains 5 sections, not 4. There remain statements about inclusion and freedom of belief. The 6 sources are now called inspirations, and the 7 principles now look like this. And you can see the slide. So I'll just let you take that in. I think the commission heard what the board was charging them to do and put love in the center as a grounding of everything else. And we have interdependence, justice, equity, generosity, pluralism, and evolution. Transformation. Did I miss one? Sorry. What did I say instead? Oh, okay. Excuse me. I will say it was a little bit easier, even though I just did make a mistake, to recall those 6 values grounded in love rather than the 7 principles, even without a song. Of course, there are further descriptions for each of these values, but for right now, just think for a moment on what resonates with you about this image and what these words mean to you. What do they call up for you in particular? Next month, our social justice team will offer several opportunities for us to gather in small groups to discuss these changes. The commission is still wanting to hear from us. Our delegates to General Assembly this summer will have many chances to contribute to the final formulation of the new Article 2. So if you are interested in serving as a delegate, either by going to Pittsburgh or attending virtually from here, please let me know. We have a certain number of people who need to be our voice at General Assembly and vote for these changes. It is difficult to make this change. It will take 2 votes in 2023 and then again in 2024. It is a lot to take in. But I also think it is a wonderful expression of our theology and so responsive to how our faith is being called to be relevant in our current world and context. Article 2 has not seen such tremendous transformation since 1984. 40 years from when the change will be finalized in 2024. Let us be awake to this new call. Like Petra, we are rocks, and this is how we roll. Amen, and blessed be.
And speaking of generosity, we take an offering each week to sustain this space that we call home and to support the work of our fellowship. We're grateful to all of your generous giving of your time, your talents, and of your financial support. There is a balm in Gilead. One of Martin Luther King's favorite spirituals is our offertory music today. It was arranged by Wendy Stevens. Thank you, Jackie, for sharing it with us. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
I'd just like to thank again those on the chancel with me, Pat and Jackie, and our tech team for making this possible, for our folks at home, our hospitality folks who are making the coffee and setting out the snacks, and our greeters and welcome table people. Please remember that next Sunday we have that important congregational meeting for our own bylaws change. And I hope to see you here tomorrow so we can march together in a yellow shirt. Look, we've got some models for how this works. There you go. We have yellow shirts if you need one. I'm going to close.
We close our sacred time together when we extinguish our chalice. I again share with you words from Reverend Jamie. We extinguish this flame, but not the chalice inside of our hearts, which serves as a beacon of hope. Emboldened by its blaze, we are reminded that our strength as prophetic and powerful people is found when we come together here at San Gabriel, which is here in Georgetown to stay, no matter what may come our way.